Hey everybody, this is a review for your big grammar test tomorrow. So it's optional, but my recommendation would be to do this yourself first and then listen to this on your iPad to check why, if you got the answers correct and why they're right or wrong. Of course, tomorrow, if you have any quick questions, you can ask before the test, but we're not going to go over all of this and do a huge review before the test because we gave all the reviews at Panther Time in the last 2 weeks. So let's start with simple, compound, complex sentences. I would always look for for compound sentences first, because if you have a compound sentence, you would have a comma coordinating conjunction like but, a fanboy, or you'd have a semicolon. So, for example, in number 3, right away I would see comma 4. That tells me that that is joining these two independent clauses, and I can check that to be sure, which means that, yes, this is a compound sentence. Okay? If I don't, like in number 1, I don't see that, there's an and, but it's not comma and. So the next thing I would look for would be a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun, because those will tell me that I have a dependent clause, which means I have a complex sentence. I don't see any of those in number 1 either. I do see one in number 4, though. Here's which. Which is a relative pronoun, so that's a dependent clause. That's an independent clause. This is a complex sentence. So since in number 1 I don't have a compound or a complex sentence, I know it's simple. It's a plain old simple sentence. It has a subject, and it has a linking verb, and it has an action verb. It has 2 verbs, and that's okay. Number 2, the car will be parked in the driveway until, there's my key, it's a subordinating conjunction. Until we can clean the garage is my dependent clause. 1 independent clause, 1 dependent clause gives us a complex sentence. In number 5, the windows in the classroom were open during the day. I don't have a compound. I don't have a complex. I have a plain old simple sentence. It just has a subject and a linking verb. That's it. Koala bears eat eucalyptus, semicolon, they cannot survive on any other food, compound. So for parts of speech, following all of these directions here, I would start in the first one by crossing out my prepositional phrase. My subject is Kennedy, President Kennedy. Was is a linking verb. Sometimes after a linking verb, I might have a predicate nominative. It would be a noun and it would rename the subject. Here it is. The speaker is a noun and the speaker renames Kennedy. Kennedy was the speaker and the speaker was Kennedy. And number 2, cross out the prepositional phrases. There are 3 of them. Makes it pretty easy. Subject is person, action verb walks. Sometimes after an action verb, you do have a direct object, but they can't be in a prepositional phrase, so we just don't have a direct object. Odontophobia is the fear of teeth. Prepositional phrase, subject, linking verb, predicate nominative. A fear is a noun. The fear is odontophobia. The odontophobia is the fear. In number 4, prepositional phrase, prepositional phrase, prepositional phrase. Subject is Lindbergh. Was given, helping verb, action verb. That's a verb phrase. Sometimes after an action verb, you have a direct object. Let's see, was given what? Was given a title. Number 5, someone once paid a man $1.3 million for a cow in an auction. Someone paid who? A man. Whoops, nope. I almost tricked myself there. He didn't pay a man. He paid $1 million to that man. The man is the indirect object. The waitress brought them their dessert. The waitress brought, what did she bring? Dessert. To whom? To them. For verbals. For number 1, identify the verbal. I'm looking for an ing or ed verb if it's going to be a participle. If it's just an ing verb acting like a noun, it's a gerund. And if it's to plus any verb, it's an infinitive. So here I see an ing verb, and it's not the verb in the sentence. The verb is over here. So having been on the road for 4 days is a participial phrase, giving us more information about the Todds. So having is a participle. Pressing hard on the brake was not enough to stop the car. Oops. We got a couple here by accident. To stop is an infinitive, but pressing is an ing verb, and it's the subject of the sentence. What was not enough? Pressing was not enough. So it's acting as a subject. Ing verbs that act like a subject are gerunds. So pressing and to stop were the two whatchamacallits, verbals. And there won't be two on the test like that. Finding a parking space. This one has two also, which is annoying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The word finding is a verbal. It's the thing that will be impossible, so it's the subject. But parking is acting as an adjective, telling us more about the space, what kind of space, a parking space. So it is a participle. So you have a participle with parking, and you have a gerund with finding. I was asked to prom by Mark. Be careful, to prom is a prepositional phrase, not an infinitive. But to go is an infinitive. Phil, worn out by his long trip, slept for 12 hours. Worn is your verbal. Oops, I should have put to go up here. Worn. It's kind of like saying, it's an irregular. It's like saying weared. He's weared out. He's worn out. Because it has an ed up here, and because the whole thing acts as a big adjective, just giving us more information about Phil, it is a participle. Adjectives and adverbs. I put how many in parentheses. You're looking for one adjective. 3 describes the noun fish. It answers how many. And the next one, snow, describes the noun days. It answers what kind. And awesome describes the days. It answers what kind. In the next one, adjectives. Hair, long. What kind of hair? Long hair. And then 2 adverbs. Not, because it's always an adverb. And always. When do I love long hair on dogs? Always. In the next one, the first adjective is math. What kind of homework? Math homework. And hard. What kind of homework? Hard homework. When is it hard? Always hard homework. Adverb describing an adjective. The boys cheered wildly at the exciting game. What kind of game? An exciting game. How did they cheer? They would wildly cheer. Adverb describing a verb. Here are 4 kinds of phrases. Prepositional, appositive, participle, and that should say participial, and verb phrases. So let's look at the first one. Of pictures. Oh, and this says there's 2 phrases. There's of pictures and of the same water lily garden. Both of them are prepositional, and actually it said all we had to do was cross them out if they were prepositional. And the next one, of a chain of coral reefs, is renaming the Great Barrier Reef right next to it, so it's in a positive. And inside of it is a prepositional phrase, so that's another one. Is located is a helping verb and an action verb together, so that's a verb phrase. Off the coast is another prepositional phrase, and of Australia is a 5th phrase. It's a prepositional phrase. And the next one, writing quickly, it starts with an ing verb, and it gives us more information about the students, but it's not the main verb in the sentence. The main verb is took, so it is a participial phrase. Performing a solo on the trumpet, again, an ing phrase, participial phrase, telling us more about the boy. It's not the main verb in the sentence, is. But also in there is on the trumpet, which is a prepositional phrase. Jacques Picard, and a positive. It's a noun, renaming the noun right next to it. Can be created is a verb phrase, helping, action. Prepositional phrase. Isn't this exciting? We're on our 4th page of grammar video. I bet you're having a blast. Okay. Independent and dependent clauses. Independent clauses are complete thoughts. They have subjects and verbs. Dependent clauses are not complete thoughts, but they do have subjects and verbs. The reason why they're not complete thoughts is they begin with something called either a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun. Who, whom, whose, which, or that. If we look at the first clause here, Ferb was returned to 1886. That's a complete thought. It has a subject, it has a verb, it's a complete thought. Because he flew through time so quickly, this is an incomplete thought. This subordinating conjunction makes it incomplete, so it's a dependent clause. So that he could bring Ferb back to 2014, incomplete thought. Has a subject, has a verb, but it's an incomplete thought. Okay, this next section deals with run-ons, fragments, and comma splices. Behind the barn, old barn, incomplete, fragment. It's just a prepositional phrase. Matt will go to Penn State one day. All right, that's okay. After Matt graduates from high school, that's not okay. That's a fragment. It's just part of a sentence. It's actually a dependent clause, and they can't be alone like that. They're fragments if they are. Christian is a very bright student in the 7-7 classroom. He always finishes his homework on time and does well on tests. That's a run-on. You need to either separate them with a period and a capital, or other things that you could do is you could do comma 4. He always finishes his homework, make it a compound sentence, or you could put a subordinating conjunction in and say because. Make it a complex sentence. Many different ways to fix it. Allison bought a new puppy. She brought him home on Christmas. You can't join these two independent clauses with just a comma. That is a comma splice. You can fix it any of the above ways that you fixed number 3. Tori is the grammar queen because she knows her parts of speech so well. This is correct. It's a perfectly good, complex sentence.